Today we're going to be going over some very strong Parfum concentrated fragrances that always make a statement. These are pretty much unavoidable. They're strong, and whenever you step into a room, people are going to be able to smell these immediately. And that's really the name of the game. You want something that is head-turning and attention-grabbing while also still maintaining a good amount of longevity as well. And for me, that's why the Parfum concentration is by far my favorite fragrance concentration. You know, sometimes you do sacrifice a little bit of longevity compared to, you know, an eau de parfum or something, but these do have a tendency to leave more of a trail in the air, and most of the time, at least these that we're talking about today, still have more than enough projection to where they do get the job done. Along with that, you get plenty of longevity as well to get you through an entire day, and then some. If you want performance, you're going to want to stay tuned for this list. I'm going to drop links to everything down below in the description if you want to do some shopping around. We're going to get things kicked off with Tom Ford. It's ombre leather in the Parfum variant here. I love this stuff, and I love the original as well, which is an eau de parfum, and you can kind of go either direction. I think they both actually perform pretty good. In most instances, I would say that the Parfum is going to outlast the eau de parfum. You know, it's just one of those deals where it kind of makes sense, and you still get really good projection out of this one as well, and a really nice heavy trail left in the air. This one basically is all about the leather and the violet leaf. So the leather is no surprise. You would expect that to be there, but it's not, you know, an animalic leather or anything too earthy or something too intense. It's a relatively fresh leather, and that freshness is also amplified by the prominent violet leaf that's in here. And this one really nods back to Tom Ford Ombre Leather 16 in the private blend. They discontinued that to make way for these, you know, ombre leathers in the signature series, which are more affordable. Now, the original ombre leather EDP, the one that came before this, of course, omitted the violet leaf in favor of a floral note, which was an interesting choice, and it did work. It did have a freshness to it. But that violet leaf in particular is back in the Parfum version here, and it does feel a little bit closer to Ombre Leather 16 to me, really amplifying and leaning in on that freshness and just the slightest bit of this watery feel. I absolutely love how Ombre Leather smells. This Parfum is typically the one I'm going to go for the most, although, again, there's nothing wrong with the EDP either. This is definitely a statement maker and a head turner every time you enter the room. This next one is Mancera Intense Red Tobacco. As if the original wasn't already strong enough, well, here you go. I think retail price is, I don't know, $20 extra or something like that, maybe a little bit more compared to the eau de parfum. So it's really not that much more expensive to go for this Parfum Intense version. And when you're talking discounters, you're under $100. Even these Intense extraits from Mancera are still under that $100 price point, which is pretty insane given how strong these are, how great quality they are, and just in general, what you get for the money with these is absolutely incredible. You know, the retail price for these already isn't horrible compared to other niche, but that discounter price, you can't beat that. This is really focusing in on this intense red pipe tobacco and some oud. So don't be too scared off by the oud. It's prominent. It's a little bit medicinal, and that is to be expected from Mancera oud. Generally, the oud notes that they use throughout their fragrance line has just a little bit of a medicinal smell, but it always, at least almost always, is the same type of oud. I mean, it smells very similar from scent to scent. At least that's something I've noticed over the years in their fragrances that do use a little bit of oud, that is. And so you get just a little bit, nothing crazy. We're still focusing in on the red pipe tobacco smell and quite a bit of patchouli as well, and some other woody notes to go along with it other than that hint of oud. Fantastic tobacco scent, amazing performance, absolutely incredibly strong projection, like really, really strong, big head turner. Compliment factor is going to be a little bit more of a tricky situation because this could be maybe a little bit more daring. Not everybody's going to immediately fall in love with something like this, but this is for the guy who doesn't care. This is for somebody who wants to stand out, whether it be, you know, in a good way or maybe in a little bit more of a divisive way. This next one is Lal Elixir Absolute. This is the 200 ml bottle. I mean, all gold. 100% through here. Regular Elixir had where these parts here, these little separations, was glass. And so you could actually register and see a juice level. Not the case here. You just have to go by feel and give it a shake, I guess. This one has plum, tonka bean, cinnamon, lavender. Basically borrowing some of a fruity plum, which, you know, Ultramale used a sweet pear note to give it this fruity sweetness. That skipped a few generations. We didn't really see anything like that in Le Male Parfum and Le Male Elixir and stuff like that. But it's kind of back here. You're getting a similar vibe. Now, this doesn't smell like Ultramale. I'm not trying to insinuate that, but it is borrowing kind of a similar idea where it's taking a sweeter variety of a fruity note, throwing it in there along with these other sweet notes to give it a bit of a different twist. You do get a little bit of a warm spice from the cinnamon. The tonka bean, of course, is pretty much par for the course and a standard feature across basically all of these, along with that lavender as well. You just expect it to be there, but it gives it a little bit of a powdery sweetness as well. I like the original Elixir. I think there's a time and place for that one. I like Elixir Absolute. I think there's a time and place for this one. This one's a little bit sweeter in a different type of way, maybe for more of a less formal scenario. Not that you're going to be wearing Le Male Elixir to, you know, super black tie events or anything like that, but this is just even a little bit more casual and carefree, but it does smell great and it is an amazing performer. You can't really feature a video like this without throwing in Sauvage Elixir. It's got to be in here, and I won't spend a ton of time on it because I do talk about it quite a bit, but it is a pure Parfum concentration. It has sandalwood and licorice, cinnamon, a bunch of warm spices basically on a nice smooth sandalwood bed to give it a little bit of a woody balance instead of just being warm spices from start to finish. That's what this one is. And it smells really nice, very mature, very classy, elegant, sophisticated, and premium smelling. This is going to be more for the formal situations, basically a completely different animal than all of the other Sauvage fragrances. The only problem with this, of course, is the price point because it's expensive. As you could imagine, $160 or so on discounters for a 60 ml bottle. I think 100 mls are usually somewhere around 220. It's a lot of money. Latafa Assad is a great clone for 20 bucks. That also performs good. But this one is really known, and I think it's about the only saving grace is that it is a mega performer. The stuff is crazy strong. Some might say it's a little bit too overbearing at times, especially if you overspray. Let's move into Hugo Boss Bottled Absolu. I absolutely love this stuff. 2024 release last year and took the community by storm. Now, there was kind of a warm-up before this by means of Boss Bottled Elixir, and this is kind of tailing off of that. They are similar. This one just takes it even to the next level. And one thing I also like too is the bottle. It shows up better in pictures and in person, but that gradient, very slight. You know, it doesn't kick into about the base of the bottle, that nice kind of yellowish amber color. Absolutely stunning presentation and an even more stunning scent. This one has incense, myrrh, patchouli, and a lot of amber, even though I don't believe they list it off in the notes. It's definitely there. It's there in the Elixir version. This one's basically just a little bit more smoky, a little bit more rich, and a little bit more mysterious compared to the Elixir. And again, I think that there are certain people who will prefer the Elixir, certain people that will prefer the Absolu, depending on the intensity that you want. This is the most intense version of the ones that smell like this, basically this and Elixir. And so for me, this is what I go for. That's typically what I like. I like kind of the most extreme version of a flanker usually, and no exception here. True Parfum, really good performer. Not always the case with Boss Bottled flankers, but this and Elixir are well above average in terms of performance, which is great to see. $95, $97, 100 ml, which is such a great price for this because it retails for, I think it's like 140, and honestly, I would be okay with paying that. Now, I wouldn't, of course, when you have the option to save, you know, $45 or something, but, you know, I don't think that that's completely unreasonable, especially compared to the retail prices of some other stuff that aren't as good as this. Again, great performer, one that you need to check out. Let's go for one that was so random, but yet exciting at the same time. Bvlgari Man in Black Parfum. I mean, they kind of just abandoned this in particular, Man in Black. Now, they'd kept the line alive by putting out several fresher releases, you know, Terre Essence, Rain Essence, Wood Neroli, Wood Essence, all of those, right? They kept those going. But Man in Black EDP just kind of sat there. You know, they put out Man in Black Orient, and I think there was one or two other Man in Black very limited edition releases that were very hard to get, and that was it, right? Nothing else. And finally, I think last year, they came out with Man in Black Parfum out of completely nowhere, and I'm glad that they did. It's a nice little refresh on that original smell. This one has spices, woody notes, elemi and benzoin. I mean, it really, what they're doing here is they're just taking that smell and bringing it back up to date, and most importantly, improving the performance. Now, you know, the Eau de Parfum was never a horrible performer. The problem is that we would often compare it to Spice Bomb, because in terms of scent, they are pretty comparable. You know, Bvlgari Man in Black being a little bit more mature smelling, but when you compare it to Spice Bomb in terms of performance, it couldn't keep up. Spice Bomb was and is a really, really strong performer, and it kind of overshadowed that one. It kind of left us feeling like Man in Black didn't perform good. Even though it technically did, it just paled in comparison. But this Parfum does perform really well, and when you're not comparing it up against something else, you know, I mean, you get great performance out of this one either way, and this Parfum does do a really good job. And luckily, they still maintained that signature Man in Black smell that we would come to expect and that we love. Just a more mature Spice Bomb. Same thing with this. It smells really nice. Atomizers are still kind of crappy. These aren't the best. A little bit narrow, not the end of the world, but I'm telling you, that smells absolutely wonderful. Nice spicy cinnamon note. Delicious. Amazing. Love this stuff. And again, if you're going to get Man in Black, I would just get the Parfum. Going to Niche up next. This one is just absolutely crazy strong. Really, really full-bodied and rich, and just a wonderful wearing experience. It demands a little bit of a price tag, although the price is discounter-wise compared to retail is a massive stretch, and just discounter prices now are actually lower than they used to be back when I bought mine. It's Roja Creation E in the Parfum, also known as Enigma. One's in the US, one's not. Can't remember which. I think Enigma is in the US. Creation E is the UK version and other countries, I believe. Something like that. But anyway, look at the coloration of that stuff. It is so dark. You've got the signature Roja gold lettering on the sides. You got the made in England on the back, all that stuff. You guys have seen this presentation a million times over. The fingerprint magnet of gold plaque on the front. Let's see, and polish that a little bit. Does that look a little bit better? Anyway, yeah, this stuff is great. The Parfum cologne's more affordable, 100 ml bottle, and you know, whatever it goes for on discounters. 50 ml bottle here. However, you do need less, right? So does it equal out? I don't know, because I've never tested that to a point where you could say for sure, but I really don't need a ton of sprays. When I go for something like this, about 2 is what I go for. The Parfum cologne, I go for probably double that. I really, really like this stuff. It's all about that cognac and tobacco and vanilla, and basically this kind of cola fizziness with this boozy sweetness and a little bit of a smoky tobacco. Absolute beauty. And it is an amazing performer, really, really strong in this version. The Parfum cologne is also, to be fair, but this stuff is crazy. Azzaro, the Most Wanted Parfum, another amazing scent. I love this so much, mainly because it is taking the Eau de Parfum Intense, which is really good, to be fair, and just giving it a little bit more of this fizziness. You know, I've described it as having this fizzy grape cola smell, and you've probably experienced that in something like Dunhill Icon, which has a similar type of bubbly, fizzy brightness. This has some of that too, which is weird and very unexpected. That is not something that I was anticipating picking up on when I tried this for the first time, but it was apparent almost immediately that there is a real nice kind of bubbly nature about this one, which I think is great. It just gives it this extra layer of uniqueness. An amazing performer here coming in at a Parfum. Want to by Night is a great performer. So is the EDP Intense. So is Forever Elixir. I mean, they're all really good performers. Take your pick of your favorite, basically, and this is one of my favorites. We're going to finish things off with Terre de Hermes in the Parfum version. This one has orange, oak moss, and woody notes. This is as strong as it gets, really. And in terms of performance, you know, the original, it performed pretty good. Dry, earthy, woody, all of that good stuff. But obviously this one here is going to perform better. It takes that dryness to a next level, though, and I would say that, you know, this is a little bit more of an interesting release. Not something that everybody's going to enjoy because it is, again, it's very dry and earthy with a bit of orange, which you would think would really brighten it up, but there's a lot of woods going on, which still does overpower that orange. And so it's not, you know, a surefire thing. But, you know, there is a little bit of a brightness off the very open. This is kind of like your quintessential office scent to me, at least this DNA. The original probably more so, just because it's a little tiny bit lighter. But I mean, it's just, it smells like a guy that is going to work in an office in like a big skyscraper or something, just a big fancy looking building. This is kind of the smell that it has. And of course it could be used for a wide variety of things. Very versatile at the end of the day, pretty much all year round. You know, it's kind of hard to not be able to pull off a woody scent, you know, for men. It's just, these are very versatile. But, you know, I think the Parfum is going to be the winner when you're really focusing on performance. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. Some really strong Parfum fragrances that immediately make a statement. I'll drop links to these down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.